The day the sky split open, Ethan Hale thought it was just another strange weather anomaly. Dawn had barely broken over the small town of Clearbrook, yet the heavens were alive with motion, light streaming through the clouds in ribbons of gold and violet, folding in on themselves like silk caught in an invisible wind. The air hummed with energy so sharp it made his skin prickle. He stood in his backyard, coffee cooling in his hand, staring upward as something vast shimmered above the forest ridge. It was no storm, no plane, no meteor. Whatever hung there pulsed like a living thing, its surface fluid and luminous, glowing with the rhythm of a heartbeat. For one still, impossible moment, the whole world seemed to pause. Even the birds stopped singing. The breeze died. Time held its breath. Ethan lowered his cup slowly. His mind raced, but his heart beat steady and strange, like it recognized what his eyes could not. He had worked for years designing engines meant to touch the edge of orbit. Now, watching this alien majesty drift through the morning mist, he felt like the universe had looked back. Then came the sound. A deep, melodic vibration rolled through the ground, resonating in his chest. It wasn't noise, it was music, low and mournful, echoing in ways no human ear could truly understand. The light above the ridge thickened, coalesced, and poured downward in a single beam that struck the forest clearing with blinding grace. Ethan's instincts told him to run. Instead, his feet carried him forward. He crossed the damp grass, climbed the fence, and followed the sound into the trees. Shafts of morning light pierced through branches, painting silver trails in the mist. The closer he came, the stronger the hum became, vibrating through roots and soil until it felt as if the forest itself were singing. Then he saw her. The light faded, leaving behind a figure kneeling amid the ferns. A woman, at least something resembling one. Her armor shimmered like moonlit glass, etched with faint runes that glowed and faded in rhythm with her breath. Her hair spilled down her shoulders like threads of liquid silver, and her eyes, stars themselves, met his. Ethan stopped dead. The air between them felt heavy, charged, sacred. She rose slowly, her every movement deliberate and regal. When she spoke, her voice was soft yet carried a resonance that filled the clearing. At last she whispered, the words trembling with emotion. "The Keeper of Light. You live." He blinked, unable to process it. "Keeper of what?" "I think you've got the wrong—" Before he could finish, she took a step closer, then another. Her knees buckled and she dropped before him with a soft cry. Leaves stirred around her as if responding to her grief. "I am Princess Lyra of Aeloria," she said, bowing her head. "I have crossed galaxies through shadow and flame to find you." Ethan's pulse thundered in his ears. He crouched, unsure whether to help her stand or keep his distance. You came here for me? Why?" She lifted her gaze, tears glinting like starlight. "Because the light that sleeps within you once saved my world. Because only you can awaken it again." Ethan's breath caught. He wanted to laugh to tell her she was mistaken. He was no hero, just a man who'd given up on the stars long ago. Yet something in her eyes, raw, hopeful, desperate, stirred a truth he couldn't name. The ground trembled. A new sound rolled through the forest, deeper, colder, mechanical. Lyra's head snapped upward. "They've followed me," she whispered. The light above the trees flickered violently and shadows spilled across the clearing like smoke made solid. Lyra rose in one fluid motion, drawing a weapon that shimmered like condensed lightning. "Stay behind me," she commanded. Ethan took a step back, heart hammering. The air crackled with unseen tension. The shadows grew faces. The hum of their darkness pressed against his ears. And in that breathless instant between fear and wonder, he realized something terrible and magnificent. Whatever this was, it had been waiting for him. The air crackled with tension as the shadows solidified into forms. They weren't human, nor any creature Ethan had ever seen. Their bodies were thin silhouettes made of smoke and shifting darkness. Their movements fluid but deliberate, their eyes burning with dim, violet embers. The forest seemed to recoil from their presence. Lyra stood between Ethan and the encroaching shapes, her weapon glowing in her grasp. It was a blade and yet not, a ribbon of pure light humming in her hands, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. When she spoke, her voice carried a command that echoed through the trees. "Stay back, Keeper. They feed on your awakening." The word keeper hit him like a weight he couldn't shake. He didn't understand it, but the way she said it, urgent, reverent, made him obey without question. He took a step back, his mind racing, breath shallow. The first shadow lunged. Lyra spun, her blade sweeping through the air in a luminous arc. The creature disintegrated into ash and vanished. Two more advanced. She moved like light itself, fluid, precise, fearless. Every strike left a trail of radiance that burned the darkness away. But there were too many. For every one she felled, two more emerged from the trees. Ethan's pulse thundered. Something deep in his chest began to hum again, the same vibration he'd felt when she first appeared. It grew stronger, pulsing behind his ribs like a second heart. One shadow slipped past Lyra, darting toward him. Instinct overrode fear. Ethan threw his hands up. Light erupted from his palms in a sudden blinding wave. The creature screamed, a sound not meant for mortal ears, before bursting into a cloud of glowing dust. When the brilliance faded, silence fell. The remaining shadows retreated, folding into themselves until nothing but the echo of their presence remained. Lyra turned to him slowly. Her eyes were wide, her breathing ragged. "The light answers you," she whispered. "It still remembers." Ethan stared at his hands, shaking. "I didn't mean to, You felt," she interrupted softly. "That is enough. The light doesn't obey thought. It obeys truth." Her words lingered in the air like a promise and a warning. She sheathed her blade, its glow dimming to a quiet silver tone. "We must move," she said, scanning the horizon. "They will return stronger. The veil never gives up its prey." "The veil?" Ethan asked, voice unsteady. She met his gaze, sorrow shadowing her features. "The darkness you just faced. It consumes entire worlds, feeding on light, on life. It devoured my home, my people, my father's stars. I am all that remains of Aeloria's royal line." She took a breath, her expression softening. "And now, it has followed me here." Ethan wanted to speak, to ask how this could involve him. But when she looked at him, he felt the answer unspoken. That symbol she had mentioned earlier, the mark of Lumora, the light that had flared from his skin, it all tied together somehow. "I'm not who you think I am," he said, almost pleading. "I'm just a man. I teach physics to teenagers who barely care about the sky." Her lips curved into a faint, sad smile. "Then you are exactly what I hoped you would be. A heart unshaped by power. The universe hides its heroes well." Her words struck something deep inside him. He turned away, trying to steady his thoughts. But the forest around them pulsed with quiet luminescence, as if reacting to her presence. As night fell, Lyra led him toward the wreckage of her ship, if it could even be called that. The craft looked organic, its metallic skin scarred but still breathing faint light. She placed her palm on its surface and soft ripples spread outward. "It's dying," she murmured. "Without the core, it cannot heal." Ethan approached, drawn by the soft radiance. "This core, it's what powers your ship." Her eyes flickered toward him. "It powered everything, Aeloria's suns, our cities, even our hearts. The core is the living light of creation itself." But when it dimmed, the veil rose. She stepped closer, her gaze unwavering. "You are bound to that light, Ethan. The seal of Lumora was forged from your essence long ago. You are its keeper, its guide, its hope." He wanted to deny it, to call it madness. But the memory of that radiant burst, his hands blazing with power, left no room for disbelief. Somewhere, deep in his soul, a door had opened, and through it, the universe whispered his name. The forest lay silent after their flight from the clearing, the only sound the quiet hum of Lyra's dying ship. Silver mist curled through the air, and faint motes of light floated around them, embers from the ship's heart fading one by one. Ethan knelt beside her, exhaustion painting his face. His hands still trembled from the blast he had unleashed, the impossible light that had burst from his own skin. He turned them over, half expecting to see burns, but they were flawless. Only a faint golden mark shimmered across his palm, a shape that seemed to shift and pulse like something alive. Lyra's gaze lingered on it. "The seal recognizes you," she said softly. "It remembers what you were, even if you do not." Ethan shook his head. "You keep saying that." "What I was, but I'm not ancient, Lyra. I'm 34. I was born in Ohio. I pay taxes. I'm not some galactic savior." Her lips curved with a fragile smile. "You think time flows the same everywhere? You think the light obeys the clockwork of your stars? It remembers across lives, Ethan Hale. Across deaths. You are not who you were. Yet the essence of that being endures." He stared at her, the weight of her words pressing on his chest. "So what? I've been reincarnated as your chosen one?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "No, you are not chosen. You chose long ago to bear the burden of the light, and now it has found you again. Ethan opened his mouth to reply but stopped. There was something in her tone, something fragile, reverent, like she was speaking not to a myth but to a memory she had carried through the dark. He looked at her then, not as a princess from the stars, not as a warrior, but as a person. Her armor was cracked, her silver skin marred by faint burns, and yet her eyes still shone with quiet defiance. You risked everything, he murmured. Came across galaxies? For this? For you, she said simply. The words hit him like a strike to the heart. He wanted to ask why, but the answer lived in her expression, hope, pain, and a faith that made his disbelief feel small. The hum of the ship deepened, and light flared from the ground beneath them. A low rhythmic pulse vibrated through the soil, like something vast awakening far below. Lyra stiffened. They are tracing the light's resonance. The veil is coming again. We cannot stay here. Ethan rose, adrenaline replacing confusion. Then we run. Come on, she hesitated. Run where? This world, your world, is not ready for what hunts us. He glanced toward the distant lights of Clearbrook twinkling between the trees. Then we'll make it ready. Lyra's eyes searched his face as if seeing something shift within him. Your kind has forgotten the power of belief, she said. Yet you still speak like one who remembers. They moved quickly through the forest, branches brushing their shoulders, the faint glow of Lyra's armor lighting their path. She walked with quiet grace despite her exhaustion, her steps soundless, her focus unwavering. As they reached the ridge overlooking the valley, Ethan caught sight of the alien vessel from above. It looked almost peaceful now, like a fallen star sleeping in the woods. The beauty of it struck him with sudden sorrow. He turned to her. If your world is gone, why come here? Why risk everything for a myth? Her gaze turned distant. Because myths are just truths waiting to be remembered. And because the light, the real light, was born here. On your Earth. The words hung in the air, heavy as gravity itself. Ethan blinked. That's impossible, is it? She asked gently. Your species has always reached for the stars. You build fire to chase the dark, sing to gods you can't see, and dream of tomorrow even when tomorrow hurts. That is the light, Ethan. It burns in you as it once burned in us. For the first time he understood. Not fully, but enough. Humanity's greatest gift wasn't technology or power. It was hope. The kind of hope that refused to die no matter how many shadows tried to swallow it. He looked down at his glowing hand, then at her. Then let's bring it back. Lyra exhaled, a tremor of disbelief and relief mixing in her voice. You speak like the keeper I once knew. From beyond the horizon, thunder rumbled again, not from clouds but from the stars themselves. The veil was coming. The air trembled, the trees shivered, and a faint crimson glow bled across the sky. Ethan clenched his fists. They want the light, he said. Then they'll have to go through me. And for the first time, Princess Lyra smiled, not with sadness, but with fierce, shining pride. The light has awakened, she whispered, and it remembers how to fight. By nightfall, the town of Clearbrook lay bathed in a strange half-light. The moon hung low, swollen and red, as if stained by something unseen. Ethan stood at the edge of the ridge beside Lyra, gazing down at the quiet streets below. The stillness felt wrong. Even the air carried a weight like a storm waiting to break. They'll come through the fractures, Lyra said quietly, her eyes scanning the horizon. The veil travels between worlds through wounds in light. The energy you released, it opened one. Ethan swallowed hard. So I did this? Her gaze softened. You awakened it. The veil only follows where it senses hope's return. It fears what you are, Ethan. He gave a hollow laugh. That's comforting. Lyra turned toward him, her expression calm but fierce. You think this is a curse, but it is your strength. Fear is the shadow of courage, nothing more. Before he could reply, the first tremor shook the ground. A low hum rose from the forest behind them, deep and cold. Then came the light, black and liquid, seeping between the trees like spilled ink. The veil, Lyra whispered. Shapes moved within the darkness, tall and formless. The air grew heavy with static. Streetlights below flickered and died one by one. Ethan's instinct screamed to run, but his heart stayed still. For the first time in years, he didn't feel small. He felt needed. Lyra raised her hand. The light will answer your call if you let it. But it cannot serve fear. He met her eyes, the starlight within them steady and certain. Then I'll give it something else, he said. I'll give it everything I've got. The first of the veil's shades lunged from the tree line, a mass of writhing smoke and hunger. Ethan thrust out his palm, but this time the light came not as an explosion. It flowed like breath, golden and alive, bending to his will. It spread through the air, carving lines of radiance that split the shadow apart. Lyra joined him, her blade igniting in brilliant arcs. Together they moved like rhythm and melody, two harmonies entwined, his raw, untamed power meeting her elegant precision. The night blazed with color, their light pushing back the dark, but the veil adapted. Each time they struck, it reshaped itself, its tendrils stretching wider, hungrier. Ethan faltered, his strength waning. "It's not enough," he gasped. Lyra's voice rose above the chaos, firm and resolute. "Then remember who you are. You are not the light's vessel, you are its will." Something inside him broke open at her words. A surge of warmth, fierce and infinite, flooded his chest. The mark on his palm burned brighter, spreading across his skin in branching lines of gold. His eyes glowed with the same brilliance that had filled the sky the day she arrived, and when the next wave of darkness struck, Ethan met it head-on. The blast shook the valley. The forest ignited with light so pure it turned night into dawn. Every shadow within miles disintegrated into nothingness. The silence that followed was heavy, almost sacred. Lyra lowered her blade, her breathing ragged. She turned toward him slowly, awe softening her features. "You wield it as if it never left you," she whispered. Ethan's knees buckled and he sank to the ground, his body trembling from the strain. "I don't even know how I'm doing this." "The light remembers," she said, kneeling beside him. "It remembers you." They sat in silence for a long time. The forest, now calm, shimmered faintly from the residue of their battle. Above them, the stars seemed to pulse in rhythm with the light still flickering in Ethan's hands. Lyra watched him with quiet admiration, and something deeper. Gratitude, perhaps, or faith. "Do you understand now why I came?" she asked softly. He nodded weakly. "You came because your people believed in someone who might save them." "No," she said, shaking her head. "I came because I believed that hope itself had not died. And tonight you proved me right." He looked at her, exhaustion fading beneath the warmth of her words. "So what now?" Lyra rose, gazing at the crimson horizon. "Now the veil knows you live. It will not stop. It will come for your world as it came for mine. But this time," she turned to him, her eyes gleaming with quiet fire, "this time it will face humanity." A distant rumble rolled through the mountains, echoing like a warning. Ethan followed her gaze to the stars above, each one flickering as if whispering secrets from far away. He took a deep breath, feeling the night settle into his bones. "Then we'd better make sure it learns what that word means." For the first time, Princess Lyra of Aeloria smiled with something close to peace. "Perhaps," she said, "it is time the stars remembered humanity's light." By morning, Clearbrook was no longer silent. The horizon burned with the faint gold haze of residual light, and every device in town, phones, radios, even watches, had glitched into static. Something had happened, something no one could explain, and everyone felt it in their bones. Ethan stood in the middle of his yard, the grass singed from last night's battle. The forest beyond shimmered faintly, alive with invisible currents of energy. Birds flew in chaotic circles overhead, unsettled by what they could not see. Lyra stood beside him, her armor dimmed to blend with the gray light of dawn. She watched the skyline, where distant aircraft cut silent trails through the air. "Your people are searching," she murmured. "They've seen the flare. The light cannot stay hidden now." Ethan's phone buzzed for the 100th time. News alerts, missed calls, messages from colleagues. Unexplained anomaly over northern forest. Government containment possible. He turned the screen off. "They'll come here," he said quietly. "And they won't come to ask questions." Lyra's gaze stayed fixed on the horizon. "Your kind fears what it doesn't understand. But that fear can become strength if guided." He studied her, seeing exhaustion etched into the lines of her face. She looked human almost, but there was something ageless in her stillness. "And if they don't listen?" he asked. She met his eyes. "Then they will learn. Light doesn't ask permission to shine." Before he could respond, the low hum of engines echoed through the sky. Military drones, helicopters. The forest below stirred as vehicles rolled into the valley. Lyra stepped closer, instinctively positioning herself between Ethan and the approaching sound. Stay behind me, she said automatically. He gave a small, tired laugh. I think I've heard that one before. Minutes later, men in dark uniforms emerged from the trees, weapons raised, faces tight with confusion. The air between them crackled with tension. Hands where we can see them, one shouted. Ethan raised his hand slowly. Please, he called back. You don't understand what's happening. Then one soldier caught sight of Lyra and froze. Her silver skin glinted in the morning sun, her eyes glowing faintly. Confusion turned to panic. The rifles rose higher. Don't, Ethan shouted, stepping forward. She's not your enemy. Lyra didn't flinch, even as red dots shimmered across her armor. Her voice was calm, steady. They fear because they cannot yet see. Let me speak. Before Ethan could stop her, she raised her hand, palm outward. The air shimmered. Every weapon's barrel glowed faintly, metal trembling as if remembering heat. Then with a single resonant pulse, all the rifles powered down, harmless. The soldiers staggered back, staring at their useless weapons. A ripple of panic spread. Ethan turned to her, whispering sharply. You can't just— I can, she said quietly. Because they needed to see a choice. Her gaze swept over the humans before her, her voice carrying through the clearing, not loud but commanding. I am Lyra of Aeloria, she said. Your world has touched something far greater than it knows. The darkness that hunts me will come for you too. You must stand together or fall alone. The commander stepped forward, eyes narrowing. And who exactly are you to tell us that? She looked at him, unblinking. A survivor, she said, of 1,000 suns gone dark. The silence that followed was heavy, almost holy. Ethan could see the soldiers falter, caught between duty and awe. Finally, the commander turned to Ethan. You brought her here? Ethan exhaled slowly. No, he said. She found me. That night, news spread faster than any wildfire. Satellite images of the golden light. The reports of a woman not of this earth. The world held its breath between fear and fascination. Ethan sat by the remnants of Lyra's ship, watching its dim glow pulse like a dying ember. They'll never trust you, he said quietly. Or me. Lyra knelt beside him, her gaze distant. Then we'll give them something greater than trust, she said softly. We'll give them belief, he turned to her. And if we fail? Her eyes met his, filled with a serenity that unnerved and comforted him all at once. Then your people will still have seen what they are capable of. Even in defeat, the light teaches. The forest wind whispered through the branches. For the first time in his life, Ethan felt the earth itself listening, holding its breath, waiting to see what humanity would do next. He looked at Lyra and found strength in the calm glow of her eyes. Then we show them, he said. We show them that we're not afraid of the dark. She smiled faintly. Then humanity shall stand, and the stars will remember your name. Above them, the first faint streak of dawn split the clouds. The light was small, fragile, yet unyielding. And somewhere in that fragile glow, hope began to bloom. The world changed in a single night. Across cities and oceans, humanity watched the skies crack open like glass. The stars flickered, the air hummed, and from the upper atmosphere poured streaks of cold violet light, beautiful and terrible. The veil had found them. Ethan stood with Lyra atop the ridge beyond Clearbrook, wind howling through the broken forest. The air was charged, every breath electric. In the distance, the northern horizon blazed like dawn turned upside down. They're here, Lyra whispered, voice trembling. Not from fear, but memory. They consume what they touch. They unmake. Ethan clenched his fists. Then we stop them. Lyra turned to him, her expression unreadable. You speak as though defiance can rewrite fate. He met her gaze. Maybe it can. She looked away as if trying to protect him from hope. Humans, she murmured, almost in awe. Even facing extinction, you burn brighter. The first Veil ships descended through the clouds, black arcs of energy bending reality itself. Entire forests bowed under their arrival, trees snapping like reeds. From their hulls poured creatures of shadow, their forms rippling between shapes, their eyes hollow and endless. Military forces were already in position. Tanks rolled through the valleys. Jets roared overhead, and the ground shook with the sound of human courage. Ethan watched as lines of defense flared to life, missiles streaking upward, flak exploding against alien shields. They're fighting, Ethan said softly. They didn't even ask what you are. They just decided to protect what's theirs. Lyra's eyes glimmered. That is why I came here. She raised her hand to the heavens and the air itself shifted. The light of Aeloria flared through her veins, radiant and pure. A sphere of golden energy rose above her, expanding outward, forming a shimmering barrier across the valley. For a moment, the night turned to day. The Veil's advance faltered. Their dark forms recoiled from the brilliance. But Lyra staggered, power coursing through her faster than her body could contain. Lyra! Ethan caught her as her knees buckled. Stop, you'll kill yourself. Her voice was a whisper against the roar of war. If I fall, the light falls with me. Ethan shook his head fiercely. Then I'll carry it. Just stay with me. Something inside him cracked open, a spark that had slept his entire life. His hand still gripping hers began to glow faintly, the same golden hue. Lyra's eyes widened. Ethan, you're resonating. What does that mean? It means... She looked at him in wonder. The light chose you. Before either could process it, a massive explosion tore through the air. A Veil warship breached the barrier, descending like a mountain of darkness. The world seemed to shatter under its presence. Lyra pushed Ethan behind her. Stay back! But Ethan stood his ground. No more hiding! He thrust his hand forward. The golden glow surged, wild and uncontrolled, but real. A pulse of light burst outward, striking the ship head-on. The impact rippled through the sky, scattering the black mist like smoke and wind. Lyra turned, stunned. That shouldn't be possible. Ethan's voice shook. Maybe your light's not just yours anymore. For the first time, she smiled in the middle of battle. Bright, fierce, proud. Then we fight together. And together they did. Lyra's energy fused with Ethan's human will, the air burning gold and white as they moved through chaos. Soldiers who saw them would later swear the sky itself fought beside them, that the light had taken human form. Hours passed in fire and thunder. The Veil's advance slowed, but their numbers seemed endless. Every victory was paid with exhaustion, every breath with courage. As night bled into dawn, Lyra collapsed to one knee, her glow flickering. I can't hold it much longer. Ethan knelt beside her, gripping her hand tightly. Then I'll hold it for both of us. He lifted his gaze to the rising sun, blood-red and beautiful. The world trembled, half broken, half awake. They can burn everything they touch, he said softly, but they'll never touch what we are. Lyra's lips curved faintly, her voice fading to a whisper. Now you understand. Above them, the largest Veil warship gathered its energy for one final strike. The ground trembled. Humanity's last defenses cracked. Ethan stood, glowing brighter now like a man made of sunrise. Then it ends here, he said, and when the sky opened again, the world saw a human standing beside an alien princess, light streaming from their joined hands, facing the storm without fear. The day the sky cried fire, the universe learned the meaning of human. The sky had become a battlefield of stars and ash. Smoke curled like dark ribbons across the horizon, streaked with lines of gold that refused to fade. The great Veil warship loomed overhead, a fortress of shadow and hunger. Every beam of light that touched its hull seemed to vanish, swallowed by its endless hunger. Ethan stood at the heart of the valley, torn earth beneath his boots, wind roaring like 1,000 voices. His body blazed with the faint golden fire of the light, but his strength was fading fast. Lyra knelt beside him, her armor fractured, her silver skin dimmed to a dull gray. Even so, her eyes were alive with quiet defiance. They're gathering power for one final strike, she said, staring up at the black leviathan blotting out the dawn. If it lands, your world will burn. Ethan breathed heavily, his hand trembling as he reached for hers. Then we don't let it, she shook her head weakly. You can't stop it, Ethan. I've seen planets crumble beneath less. You are only human, he smiled faintly. That's exactly why we win. The words seemed to stir something deep within her, a memory of her own world, of the people who had once stood where he now stood, facing the impossible. For the first time, her voice trembled not with fear, but with emotion. You remind me of them. My people believed the light could not die as long as one heart still burned for it. Ethan squeezed her hand, then lighted again. Above them, the Veil ship began to pulse with darkness, an orb of pure void forming beneath its hull. The ground shook. Soldiers and civilians alike stared upward, frozen in awe and terror. Ethan turned to Lyra. You said the light chose me. Then maybe it's because it knew we'd need both of us, human and Aeolorian. Together. Her eyes widened as realization dawned. The resonance, she whispered. If we merge what's left of our energy, it could counter the veil's core. But the cost? Don't, he said quietly. Don't tell me what it'll cost. Just tell me it'll save them. Lyra's throat tightened. It will. Ethan smiled, the kind of smile that carries no fear, only love for what's worth protecting. Then let's end this. She reached up, touching his face lightly, an alien gesture, yet full of fragile tenderness. You were never meant to see this war, Ethan. Yet you've become its light. He looked into her eyes that had seen galaxies burn, and said softly, And you've become my reason. They rose together, their hands interlocking. The golden fire around them intensified. Threads of energy spiraling upward, weaving through the storm clouds. The light of Aeloria met the heartbeat of humanity, and the valley erupted in radiance. The Veil warship fired. A beam of void energy screamed through the sky, devouring everything in its path. But before it reached them, their combined light surged upward, colliding with it head-on. The impact shattered the heavens. Time itself seemed to stop. For an instant, the world was nothing but light. Warm, infinite, eternal. The Veil ship cracked like glass under the brilliance, its dark mass dissolving into fragments of shadow that scattered into the upper atmosphere, fading one by one. The explosion rolled across continents, but it carried no fire, only silence. And then slowly dawn returned. When the light faded, the warship was gone. The sky cleared. The sun broke through. Humanity looked upward and wept. In the center of the valley, a single crater remained. Within it, Ethan lay unconscious, his hand still reaching toward where Lyra had stood. But she was gone. Only a faint shimmer lingered in the air, and a whisper of her voice echoed softly through the wind. The light endures. Wherever you are, Ethan awoke hours later, surrounded by soldiers and scientists. But none of their words mattered. He looked toward the horizon, the same horizon that had once burned, and saw faintly a single streak of golden light drifting upward, vanishing among the stars. He smiled through his tears. You made it home. In the days that followed, the world changed forever. Nations stopped counting borders and started counting stars. The story of the human and the alien princess spread like wildfire, half legend, half truth. But in every telling, one thing remained constant. When the universe came for Earth, humanity stood its ground. Years later, under a night sky unmarred by war, Ethan would sometimes swear he heard her voice again. Soft, distant, carried on the wind. You showed me what light truly means. And somewhere far beyond the edge of human sight, in the quiet cradle of the stars, a silver figure watched over a small blue planet, smiling, forever bound to the courage that had saved her world, and his, because in the end the light of Aeloria had not died. It had simply found a new home, in the heart of humankind.